Hey, friends. Welcome. So, I'm really excited for today's training, and it might be slightly longer, so feel free to come back to it. Um, but this is something I've been playing with quite a bit in my own nervous system expansion work. And I've been working with it with clients, and I'm finally kind of ready to share kind of like this unique spin on unlocking our own potency, unlocking the power of our nervous system, and using all of that to really amplify and accelerate our results. So, a lot of the work we're going to talk about today is around shifting your identity. And I'm going to share some things around even my own personal life and how that's showing up for me. And the idea here is we shift our identity so that we can start to access our own unique success signature. And I'm going to tell you what that is. This is, I believe, a word I coined, and this is kind of the way I look at it. And when we have access to that unique success signature, we essentially start to create quantum leaps in our life and in our business. So when I talk about quantum leaps in your results, essentially, I'm speaking to both being able to collapse time in terms of making things happen faster and potentially with a lot less effort. But I'm also talking about quantum leaping, um, the quality and the quantity of the results you create, expanding your results. So it's not just about making them happen faster, but it's also about being able to actually receive and hold more. And doing all of that without like that sacrifice that some of us can do, that abandoning of ourselves and what matters most to us. So I'm going to do a little deeper intro and then I'll introduce myself. But essentially, we each have a unique success signature, just like we have a unique DNA or we have unique fingerprints. And that success signature is essentially our energetic fingerprint. It's our identity, our being fingerprint. So a fingerprint DNA is the body's unique kind of key to unlock the body. That success signature is the fingerprint, the DNA of our being. When we start to have access to that, essentially we start to have access to who we truly are. We are able to become open, fearless, whole, free, and from that sense of being who we are, of being free to be ourselves, of feeling whole and fearless, we become magnetic. And what used to feel hard actually starts to feel simple. And what used to be the ceiling we kept bumping against actually becomes our floor. And so that's what we're going to explore today. So before I go and deep dive in that, I'm going to take a minute to introduce myself and to tell you how we could work together if you're new to me. Welcome, by the way, if you're new, if you don't know me. Hi, I'm Ilsa. Feel free to say hi. Whether you're watching this live or later in the replay, I will absolutely come back and say hi in return. Plus, it's good for the algorithm. You would be helping me in making sure that there's more eyeballs on this training. Personally, I'm a bookworm. I'm a spiritual nerd. I love to dance. I'm a dog lover. I've got 2 dogs. I'm kind of like the weird version of the hermit cat lady, but with dogs. Professionally, over the last 20 years or so, I've worked as a psychotherapist, an expansion expert, a strategist for service-based entrepreneurs and leaders. I essentially help my clients rewire their nervous system, their brains, their energy, their business to create consistent results, to create really easeful and joyful growth and money, even potentially double, triple, quadruple their leadership as well as their receivership from this place of simplicity and feeling deeply satisfied in their life. For me, all of my work basically focus on freedom, both emotional freedom and financial freedom. And when you have the tools and the strategy and the identity work to create both of these kinds of freedoms, you're actually truly free. So that's what my work is about. And if you want to work with me, I put 2 links in the description of this video. The first one is a free 25-minute enrollment call. Basically, what I'm asking you to do is if you followed me for a while and you know you want to work with me and you're ready to work with me, then that's the call for you. And in that call, we're just basically going to go over my 2 to 3 different packages that I have and figure out what's best suited for you based on your needs, your budget, the kind of goals you're wanting to accomplish. Now, if you're not quite ready to dive into the deep end, then the other thing I offer new clients is a 90-minute one-on-one intensive with me. I call that my Wired for Wealth intensive. And it's 55% off. So you can actually get a real sense of the work I do, how I work with clients, and to see if we're a great fit. So if that could be the way you want to go, to start out with a little bit less of a commitment in that way. And again, the links to both of these calls are in the description of this video. All right, let's get started. When you read or hear things around collapsing timelines, manifesting, achieving your goals and your dream outcomes, there's usually a few things that come to mind, many of which I've spoken about in the past. The first is being an emotional and nervous system match for what you want. And when you do that, you start to actually normalize it in your body, which releases a lot of the resistance we have to creating and holding what we want. The other thing that comes up pretty commonly is not being at war with what is. Essentially, to create the future you want, you can't create that by being at war with your present. So you want to hold and be able to hold and appreciate where you are while simultaneously embodying, operating from what you desire. So there's something about not having resistance to what is that actually allows the timeline to collapse a lot faster, rather than if you're at war with what is, then you're automatically in a state of war, in a state of resistance. And so unconsciously, you're resisting the future you want. And then the last thing that I often talk about is being in a state of nervous system expansion so that the people around you, whether that's your potential clients, a potential intimate partner, collaborators, whomever, but when you're in a state of expansion in your nervous system, what happens is that the people around you start to co-regulate, to get in coherence with you, and they start to match you. They start to get into a sense of expansion, of possibility, of enthusiasm and excitement themselves. And that again releases their resistance to move forward, to be open to you, to see the future that's possible by being in your presence and potentially working with you. So those are 3 things I talk about quite a bit. And they're all super valid and super important, and like key foundation pieces of my work in terms of like rewiring yourself and creating more of what you want in your life and in your business. But what I want to share with you today is actually a little different. And it has more to do with uncovering and unleashing and leading from something unique within you that more than likely has been kept locked up, hidden, or bound. Maybe out of a sense of inadequacy, maybe out of woundedness or trauma, or maybe out of a fear of being misunderstood, being rejected, or even attacked if you dare to really be yourself. What I find interesting is as entrepreneurs and purpose-driven leaders, oftentimes we're on the cusp of something new. And so we're not always following the rules. We're not always being in the flow of where everybody else is. And so that can create a sort of friction where a lot of us are in this weird tug of war between belonging and fitting in and also standing out. The problem with that is often when we're trying to do both, it actually dims our light. When we're trying to do both, it tends to lead us to either hide or put on some kind of mask or front, or it can lead us to overcomplicate our entire business model in an effort to kind of prove ourselves or improve what we're doing. And when we're trying to do both, we're actually not anchored in that unique success signature. And without that unique success signature, even when we're showing up, even when we think we're being authentic and standing out, we're actually still doing a subtle form of hiding. We're hiding our true self behind some kind of mask and some kind of positioning that we're taking. And then those who are meant to work with us, unfortunately, can't see us. And they can't find us because we're not quite vibrating, resonating the truth of our being. So in doing so, we lose that unique frequency, that unique signature that actually opens the path to success into the results we desire with that ease and that alignment that we seek. Let me give you an example. Have you ever had that feeling of looking at someone who's quite famous, they're quite well-known, they're quite successful, and you just don't get it? I've had that feeling before. Like watching somebody do a talk or do a training, and you kind of can't help it. You don't really like them. You can't resonate with them. Maybe you find them boring or obnoxious. You don't quite understand why everybody thinks this person is the bee's knees. You're like, I don't get it. And meanwhile, their people love them. Meanwhile, they have loads of supporters. Have you ever had that? I remember watching this training. This was actually not that long ago, from someone that was recommended to me. And this person who was doing this training, she's a coach or a mentor. She was wearing a ton of makeup. She was wearing this skimpy dress with high heels with her boobs basically hanging out. I personally found her loud and crass, and I was able to withstand maybe 7 minutes of that training, and then I had to turn it off. And so here's the thing I want to say. And you might say, dude, Ilsa, judgy. Yeah, I can be judgy. I'm human. But here's the thing. There was absolutely nothing wrong with who she was. She simply wasn't for me. And I'll tell you what she was. She was herself. Audaciously, unapologetically so. And even though I could never have attended a retreat led by her or worked with her, any kind of like, I can't do that. Like, she's just not for me. This woman is a 7-figure earner. This woman will put events together and have hundreds of people who love her show up to those events and buy into her mastermind. What she did is she discovered and liberated her own unique success signature. She stopped giving a shit about people like me because I'm not her person. She doesn't need me to love her. She just needs to love and be herself. And truthfully, she did that gloriously. I couldn't stand it, but it was glorious. And I have a feeling that for the people who are resonating with her, for the people who are her people, she is glorious to them. My own mentor, Shamika Tankerson, likes to say, the more I am me, the more money I make. So at the core of each of us, at the core of every single human being, there is a truly unique being. You, my friend, are one without a second. Even if you have an identical twin, your essence is solely yours. Across all time, past and future, across all space, there will never be another like you. That's just the way life and creation works. And if that's true, I mean, I had that thought before, like, why would the universe create not like every single snowflake different? I think it's because the nature of life is individuality. The nature of life is uniqueness. When I really steep into that, like, what's the point of being alive? What is this life? What's the real purpose here? It's about discovering, unleashing, and living that truest you possible. And interestingly, that truest you possible, that most authentic you, that unique success signature is actually what happens to make us incredibly attractive and compelling to those who are meant to work with us. So whether you're speaking about like Tony Robbins, for example, who is loud and powerful, or you're speaking about Dan Sullivan, who happens to be Tony's coach, Tony's mentor. And Dan Sullivan is quiet. He's calm. He's kind of nerdy. He's deeply wise and innovative. But for most of you, you don't actually know who he is because he's not like front forward. He just has been operating in the background. And those top people in the industry, they all know who he is because they work with him. But see, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like, Tony didn't try to be like Dan, and Dan didn't try to be like Tony. What both of these men who are legends have, and what made them legends, is that they found the courage to be wholly themselves. And at some point in their career, in their growth, they made this super powerful decision. And they imprinted that decision deep in their brain, in their nervous system. And that decision that they made was that they could be wildly successful and have an incredible impact by being themselves and doing it their way. That decision, the embodiment of that decision, is what leads you to your unique success signature. Your unique success signature is literally your biggest asset. It is your time collapser. It is your result amplifier, and it is your visibility catalyst. It is what allows you to unlock your own potency, your own power, and to unlock the life that you were born to lead. In my work with clients, at least once a month, I tend to include some kind of practice to help them attune, tap into, and embody that unique, authentic, most unleashed version of themselves. Like, it is a foundational piece of the work I do, because once you start to actually embody that, you start to have access to the pathway forward. You start to actually create and build your business and your life from expansion rather than from fear or from inadequacy, from a feeling of not being enough, from scarcity, from all of those things. So, you know me, you know what I like to say. You can't get expansive results from contraction. The seed always begets the fruit. So being able to anchor in expansion and to make powerful decision and to move from that expansion is actually what creates the results we want to experience. For me, when I tap into her with big H, big E, big R, when I tap into her, that unique, truest version of me, she's sovereign. She's relaxed. She is so clear and confident. She is anchored in trust. She fully belongs to herself. And she's both funny and irreverent, which some of you don't know that about me because it's hard for me to bring it up in a training like that. But my clients see it because I'm in response, right? Like when you work with a client, it's a dance. So your personality can come out a lot more than in a training automatically. And I'm not someone whose outer like looks talk a lot about my personality. My personality really comes from inside. Like I can't tend to wear comfortable clothes. I don't wear makeup. I wear the same shit all the time. Like I am me. I'm pretty boring externally. But when I'm in conversation, like that sense of sarcasm and irreverence and humor actually comes forward, but there's also a depth there. Like when I tap into her, she is all those things. There's no surface level to this version of me. She's always about the depth, which is probably why I can't, for the life of me, figure out how to make these trainings like under 30 minutes. It's just not in my nature. And so here's the funny thing, as I started to really tap into her, to really start to anchor my identity in her and be her, then I had to stop caring about the fact that my trainings are pretty easily 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes more. This thing might be more, who knows? We'll figure out where it goes. And I had to start to really trust, and I started trusting that my people don't care. They will happily listen to me rant about for 45 minutes. So when I show up as her, when I give myself permission to be me fully, the core of my being, and to create, to move, to operate as that big you, that big me, that's when time speeds up. That's when it collapses. That's when my capacity to be seen, to receive, to hold more with joy, with ease increases. That's when my energy, like all the stagnation starts to dissipate, all the freeze start to dissipate. And then it's like my energy capacity increases, my vitality increases. That's when things, including results, really starts to flow. Opportunities appear. Those who are meant to work with me and they're ready to work with me start to find me and book calls with me. When I show up as her in my entire experience, including in my nervous system, in my brain, when all of me is steeped in her, I'm in expansion. And I'm imbued in spaciousness and inspiration and in freedom. And I rule my life from those qualities. I start to really feel in control both of myself, of my life, and of my results. Now, when I wobble, because I'm human, I wobble. When I start to second guess myself, when I start to move from fear, from doubt, from lack, I'm automatically embodying a smaller version of me. A smaller version of me that is anchored, stuck in contraction, in a sense of unworthiness, in maybe some kind of scarcity. When I do that, the flow constricts. Time starts to slow down. Everything starts to feel further away and harder to get to. So you are literally the valve that defines the flow. When you are in the fullness of you and you are operating from that place, the flow expands because you expand. And when you are operating from some kind of mask, from not feeling safe being really yourself, from not feeling safe being seen, from not feeling safe being in your power, then the flow constricts because you contracted. So play with me here for a minute. And you can even, unless you're driving, but if you're not driving, you can even close your eyes for a minute with this. When you imagine yourself feeling completely safe being you, absolutely and completely safe being here in this world, in this time, in your life, when you imagine yourself feeling deeply safe being powerful and being seen in your power, safe wanting what you want and actually going after what you want without apology, And when you imagine yourself feeling deeply safe doing it your way and deciding that you get to succeed being you, you get to break all the rules that are not aligned. Who are you? When you imagine being so rooted in your own value, in your own worth, in your own belonging, in your right to exist, to be here, to thrive, and to have a great impact. When you're imagining being deeply anchored in your right to own and control your life and to create a life that and a business that really deeply nourishes you. When you imagine being completely grounded, anchored, steeped in your own truth and in your own trust of yourself and of life fully. When you imagine all of that, who are you? That version of you has a frequency. That version of you has a unique signature. They have a unique scent, a unique way of moving, of being, of thinking, of behaving. And when you are them, you are powerful beyond measure. To quote, oh, who was it? Somebody said that, somebody famous. Well, that woman who ran for president. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But anyways, when you are him or her, you are powerful beyond measure. And so as you steep in that energy, like it might just be a felt sense, a feeling of who that being would be, who that version of you would be. How do you show up? How do you arrange your business, your offers, your marketing? How much do you charge? What are you no longer available for? And all of that unapologetically. That's kind of a little bit of what I'm talking about. Like really having a direct access to that potency inside you and being able to imbue your whole life and everything you do with and from that potency. Now, I want you to notice how much in this brief little, I don't know if it was even an exercise inquiry, how much I spoke of safety. Safe being you, safe being here, safe being powerful, safe wanting what you want, safe being seen. That's the role of the nervous system in uncovering and embodying and living your success signature. Safety is what the nervous system really brings, especially at the beginning. Because it's hard to have anything else than some kind of intellectual understanding or an intellectual endeavor of this until you really anchor your identity in what I call the inexhaustible ground of safety through that nervous system work. Because when you feel really deeply safe within yourself, everything becomes possible. And what feels scary out there feels significantly smaller because you have your own back, because you feel deeply supported from within. So here's the truth. The results you are currently creating and receiving and the experiences that you're having in your current life in each moment are a mirror of your identity. They show you which version of yourself you have been embodying, you have been living from, you have been running your business from. And they show you how aligned or not you have been with that success signature, with that you, that big U with a capital Y, a capital O, and a capital U. When you are in the flow of you, big U, the flow, both the internal flow and the external flow is restored. The valve is open. It starts to increase. When you are in the flow of the small you, the part of you who maybe doesn't feel quite enough, quite ready, the part of you who's doubting, who's worried, who's scared, who doesn't feel quite worthy, maybe, the flow is constricted. So the internal flow of both your clarity, your certainty, your confidence, your motivation, your inspiration, that's constricted. And then the external flow of how well you're able to act and execute, as well as the results you're able to allow in and to receive. All of that external flow is also constricted. When you are constricted or contracted, when your nervous system is contracted, then everything else is contracted. So if you want to shift, amplify, accelerate your results, you have to attune to, and you have to start to move from that unique success signature that is deep inside you. Your focus literally needs to start being on managing your emotional state, anchoring in a sense of trust, confidence, certainty, so that you can really start to embody and be in motion from that truly safe, liberated version of you. And then you can stop doubting yourself. You can't stop pouting. You can start to stop being stuck in confusion, in perfectionism and procrastination. You no longer start to freeze or get overwhelmed and sabotage and block your progress and your results. So a lot of that work essentially is done through rewiring the nervous system for that sense of unwavering safety and worthiness. It's also done by training your brain to start to see past the limits, past the rules that keep you small, that keep you struggling, and to start to anchor your brain in and to start to perceive from possibilities. That is actually brain exercise. It's a way to train the brain. Just like all of you have probably experienced deciding that you want to get a new car and you do a little research on that car and suddenly you start to see it all around. Literally, through doing that, you trained your brain for what you wanted to see and perceive and experience, and it delivered it to you. It's not that the cars weren't there, it's that you literally could not see them. This is where brain training is so important, because when you don't do this work, everything could be right there for you to grab on. You can't see it. There's literally a door. You don't see it. And then the last thing that we work on to really start to shift our results, to start to anchor into that unique big you, is we start to do that work by releasing stagnation in the body and recalibrating and elevating our energy and our vitality so that we can stay in motion and we can stay in alignment and on track. So I want to talk a little bit more about those success signature, because there's two of them technically. There's two of them. The first really is your inner success signature, and I'm actually going to talk about that after. But you also have an external success signature. Basically, a simple way of doing business, of living your life, a visibility or marketing strategy that is in alignment with that big you. This is especially true if you're in business. That external success signature is essentially what is the easiest, clearest path forward. And when you find it, it usually feels really easeful, really nourishing, and it actually bears fruit. Whenever I've worked with clients and they finally figured out what that is, it's always super clean, super clear. It's never complicated. And it tends to be really satisfying and easeful for them. That doesn't mean it's always easy. There might be something that they need to move through as they're stepping in their bigness, essentially. But once they're past that initial resistance or that initial fear, and they're really doing the external success signature from their internal success signature, it just flows. It automatically puts the right strategy automatically puts your inner genius on display. It automatically starts to open both your inner and your outer flow. It becomes easy to be an inspiration. it becomes easy to stay motivated. It becomes easy to make the connections you need and to start getting the results you want. In some way, what I'm doing this right there with you guys is my external success signature. And for those of you who followed me for a while, you know I struggle with this. I am not someone who enjoys visibility. I am not someone who loves to put myself out there in this way. I'm a very private, introverted person. And yet, when I started to really do my own nervous system work and I started to tap into that inner success signature and to start to embody her, I knew that doing trainings and lives and being on video was my ticket to success. And more than 95% of all my clients have come and booked a call after watching one of these trainings, sometimes multiple of them. They will just binge watch them and then get on a call with me. I actually think I could almost do nothing else. Like I still do a bunch of posts and like all of that stuff. I actually, and maybe I should do that one day just as an experiment. I actually think that I could stop doing everything else and just do these videos and these trainings, and that probably I don't think it would impact all that much my results. But until you calibrate yourself to that success signature, until you uncover it, what usually happens is we're copying others. We're comparing ourselves to others. We're believing that others have the answers we seek. We're believing that they have the missing link to our success instead of leading ourselves, instead of being a way weaver, instead of deciding, like these legends, these powerhouses, that we get to succeed doing it our way. Here's the thing. You, my friend, are the missing link. You, that big you inside you, that success signature is your missing link. Now, here's the thing. Finding your own way doesn't mean you never need support or mentorship or someone to dial in your process or brainstorm your strategy with. But it does mean that even if you do get support and mentorship, you stop abdicating your own authority, your own wisdom, your own knowing. And you take what others give you and you become the filter through which everything passes. So that's the external success signature. There is a unique strategy that is essentially the 20% of what you do that will create 80% of your results. And it's very hard to figure out what that is until you actually start to attune to that internal success signature. That internal success signature is the frequency of you. It's the frequency of being in the fullness of you, unapologetically from a place of deep safety and worthiness. And when you know what your external success signature is, and you start to literally do that from that internal success signature, then from that fullness of you, then you literally start to create what you used to think was impossible. Embodying you, big you. Being in their emotional state, in their sense of trust, of confidence, of clarity, of calm, of certainty. This is the heat that cooks the food and turns every ingredient, turns this recipe, ingredients recipe, that's your external success signature, that turns all of that into a delicious dish that is both nourishing to your soul, nourishing to your life, nourishing to your bank account, and deeply satisfying. So you need a recipe, right? Then once you have the recipe, you need the ingredients. You need that external success signature. You need to have a plan and to work the plan. But on its own, these ingredients, the recipe, they're nothing. They taste like nothing. They're nothing to you. You claiming that innate essence of you, that internal success signature is the fire. It is the heat. It is the power that makes everything you do start to work in a way that is fast, that is simple, and that is deeply satisfying. So, this fire of your authentic, most powerful being is the 80-20 rule that's not talked about. So, the ingredients are 20% of your success, the external stuff, the external strategies, what you do, and that fire, that potency, being yourself, showing up and acting from that. That is the 80% that creates the results you want. It is that power that makes you magnetic. It is that power that makes you courageous. It is that power that allows you to have deep sense of clarity on what it is that you're supposed to do and how to do it. It is that fire that makes you visible and compelling and start to call forward the people that are meant to work with you. It is the fire of you that makes all the ingredients blend perfectly together and smell so damn good and taste so damn good that everyone wants in, and everyone who likes that dish, right, wants a piece of it. I hate cinnamon. I know I'm weird. I hate it. I think it overpowers everything. I grew up in France, and in France, a lot of the mouthwash that they use at the dentist has like a cinnamon taste. So I associate cinnamon with going to the dentist for some reason. And so here's the thing, you can create the most amazing apple pie. It can smell delicious. It can be like world renowned. If you put a bunch of cinnamon in there, it's not the apple pie for me. So we're not trying to want everybody to want a piece of us and of our work. We're really just wanting the people for whom this is what they want and what they need. And we are theirs. They are ours and we are theirs. So without that fire, we're kind of like starving people who eat beans right out of the can. We'll take whatever comes our way, even if it doesn't feel aligned. We're oftentimes working for a lot less money than we should. We're taking on clients who are not ideal. We're working on things that don't really inspire us or are not in our zone of brilliance. We're doing things in our marketing that we really don't like because we think we have to, because that's what our mentor did. And here's the thing, we've all been there. We've all eaten beans right out of the can. We all still do it. Like I still do it on occasion when like there's a little dip or I'm wobbling or something's happening. I'm like, oh, I better do this even though I don't want to. That's me eating cold beans out of the can because I'm operating out of alignment with my inner and outer success signature. And I'm operating out of alignment with who I am, with that inner fire, with that unique frequency of me. I'm trying to be someone else. I'm trying to be what I think people want me to be. And when I try to do that, it doesn't work. It never works. So that's a question for you to maybe journal about is what's your current version of eating cold beans out of a can? Now, before I kind of wrap this all up, I want to come back to the nervous system for a bit and kind of talk about what is the role of the nervous system in this weird ass food and fire metaphor. So your nervous system is a few things here. First, it is the safety. And so I'm not going to talk about that a lot because we've done it already. Like it is the foundation of safety that literally makes all of this possible. But in this weird analogy, your nervous system is the pan. It's also the thermostat, the button, the lever that raises or lowers the heat, the fire. Your nervous system is also, in this metaphor, the final seasoning. So it is the container that holds and makes the whole dish possible. The bigger the container, the more food you can have and enjoy. It is what defines how quickly the food gets cooked and blended together to create this amazing savory dish that gets to be received and consumed. So when the fire is really low or non-existent, it takes forever for things to cook. And it might still end up good in the end, right? But it potentially took a lot longer and a lot more effort, a lot more like moving things around to actually get to your desired outcome. And finally, your nervous system, as the savory final seasoning, is what increases the quality of your experience. Just adding that little bit of spice increases the enjoyment of the whole dish. When your nervous system is in expansion, the whole process feels easier. The whole process feels more nourishing, more satisfying, more enjoyable. So our job as we work with the nervous system is to increase our capacity, literally become a bigger container so that we can receive and hold more goodness without overwhelm, without spilling over, without burning ourselves, right? Through the nervous system, we also create an access point to our inner fire. And we learn to feel safe enough being and embodying and showing up as that version of ourselves so that the results are quick, they're consistent, so that we have access to that valve and we're able to actually be in the fullness of our fire. And then as we're working with the nervous system, we're increasing our capacity for ease and enjoyment, for spaciousness, for freedom. We're increasing that capacity so that we can take it all in, so that we can celebrate our success, so we can enjoy the fruits of our labor without having to push, without having to sacrifice or pay for it in some way. In this depth of safety and trust, which is the foundation of nervous system work, we allow ourselves to rest as we are, to savor and digest what we have received, rather than being worried about where our next meal is going to come from. So it's like those Spaniards who just after their meal go and have their siesta. They're not worried about their boss. They're not worried about paying the rent. They're in absolute flow with enjoyment and with trust that more is coming, that they don't have to worry about it. They just have to honor the results, the meal, and savor it. So your nervous system is what allows you to essentially beam out through that inner fire your unique frequency, the scent that calls everyone to the kitchen. It is what allows, when the thermostat, the valve is turned on high and is fully open, for you to have absolute clarity and confidence on what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're meant to do, what your message is, and how to articulate it in a way that's deeply clear and compelling to the people who are meant to work with you. It is what allows you to be found and seen by your ideal clients. And so depending how contracted or expanded your nervous system is, it starts to raise and lower that valve, the volume of you, big you, right? It starts to shift the potency of your fire, the fire under the pot, the fire that is in the core of you. So if it's contracted, then the fire lessens. If it's expanded, then the fire roars and shines and heats, right? It is the valve that increases or dims the light of your own lighthouse. You are a lighthouse. But here's the thing, and that's the thing that's important to really anchor in. The lighthouse, depending whether it's super bright or it's muted, it doesn't matter. The lighthouse is always connected to its power source. Your power, your success signature is always here, right under the surface. But most of us, we've forgotten how to access it, or through conditioning, disappointments, woundings, traumas, rejection, our nervous system has become so contracted in order to keep us safe, in order to make sure we don't get disappointed more or rejected more or judge or criticize more. Our nervous system has contracted to keep us small and safe. And in doing so, our own access to that flow, to our power, has become constricted. Your nervous system is the valve that defines how much access you have to the uniqueness of you, to the fullness of you, and how safe you feel bringing that fire, that potency, that truth of you to the surface for everybody to see and to feel. Your nervous system is the container, it is the activator, and it is the amplifier of you and of your results. So you can't do this work really without accessing that safety and that sense of worthiness through the nervous system. So your big work is to first discover that inexhaustible ground of safety so that you can start to tap into that success signature, embody it, hold it, bring it forth in how you show up. Once you feel safe being you, being here, being powerful, wanting what you want and going after what you want, and being seen in that bigness, then you start to dip yourself into your unique internal success signature and you start to figure out, what is that like? When you think of that version of you that feels super safe being themselves, that trusts themselves implicitly, that completely knows that they are powerful, worthy, good, and they deserve the best, that part of you that knows that the mission of their life is to unleash themselves first and foremost, because everything else literally overflows from that. Who are they? How are they? How do they feel? How do they think? How do they move? What actions do they take? That's your work. Safety, then steeping in the energy, the essence of her or him, and then getting real curious as to, what would they do with your current life? How would they respond to what's going on in your current life? Here's the thing, this part of you is your destiny. Like, we all think we have this sacred work to do out there. I beg to differ. They, embodying the truth of our own being, is the purpose of our life. Because once you have that, and once you rewire your nervous system, you train your brain, you calibrate your energy to be a match for that version of you, the life, the big sacred work, the impact that you're meant to create and have, the path forward to creating that impact, the success, the results, all of that starts to unfold naturally and organically from that alignment, from that groundedness in our own potency. So over and over, your job is to feel into that power, that you-ness, that potential inside of you, that unique fire, to steep in the energy of their frequency, to move and make decisions from them, as them, to borrow their courage, their confidence, their belief, their calm, their trust, until it becomes yours. You might have heard me use this metaphor before. I'm switching metaphor. I'm moving from food and fire to textile and color. When, I don't know if they still do that, but they did that in India for a lot. Like they would dunk fabric in dye, and then it would come out, and the dye, it was like a light blue. And then they would dry it and they would dunk it again, and then do the process again. And every time the fabric would become darker and darker and darker, more and more imbued with the color. And at some point, the color would stick. It didn't matter how much you washed it, the color would stick. They had literally changed the fabric of the textile. This is what you're doing here. You're dunking yourself, you're steeping yourself in your own potency, in your own inner fire, in the you that is truly you. And every time you do that, every time you are borrowing the courage of that version of you, the confidence, the clarity, the calm, the trust, the sense of certainty, every time you borrow that, it becomes yours a little more. And it's like all of you starts to rewire and remember itself as that. And then at some point, you have literally shifted, and you don't even know when it happened. You have literally shifted the fabric of your own being, and you are no longer who you used to be. You are the truth of who you are. And then that's when what felt impossible becomes possible. What felt impossible becomes possible. So that's your big work. And as your big work is to do that steeping, to do that borrowing, to do that anchoring, to do that sense of safety and being you and finding safety in being you as you stay in flow, as you stay in motion, as you keep moving forward towards your goal. That's how you make everything happen. That's how you activate and actualize the life you were born for. That's how you stay on track. So that's my training for today. How did we do? Just around an hour. It's not so bad. I've been worse. And if you found today's training valuable, expansive in some ways, please share it. Like send a link to a friend. If you're on Facebook, tag a friend, whatever's easiest for you. And whatever you do, I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate your support. So if any of this has resonated with you and you're ready to kind of, here's the thing, being you is a revolutionary act. So if you are ready to revolutionize your state of being, your life, your business, your results, your wealth, then let's do some work. Let's go deeper. Let's do some real nervous system, brain training, energy recalibration work so that we can expand you out of contraction and we can start to repair and reprogram you so that you can achieve, grow, receive more with consistency, with ease, and with enjoyment. If you're interested in doing that, there's two ways, as I described at the beginning of this training, to start to work with me. The first is, if you've been following me for a while, you know me, you know how I work. Maybe you've even done one of my Wired for Wealth intensive in the past, and you're ready to get working. We can do a free 25-minute enrollment call. And in this call, we're going to figure out which of my packages best fits your needs, your goals, your budget, and we're going to get started. Working with me, I don't care at any level, ranges basically between $1,200 for like a half day, 4 hours one-on-one with me, all the way to like $10,000 or so for like super long-term, really in-depth support. Super long-term meaning like a year. So it's not outrageously expensive. I've kept my fees relatively mid-range on purpose because I want to support as many people as possible. All my packages include deep dive one-on-one work, as well as a lot of very powerful practices to rewire your nervous system, to train your brain, and to upgrade your energy and your vitality so that you can create the results you want without sabotaging, without doubting, without essentially blocking your path forward. So, first possibility, 25 minutes, you and I, let's decide how to work together and let's jump in. The other is if you're newer to me, you're not quite ready to commit to that level of work, then I offer a 90-minute Wired for Wealth intensive one-on-one with me for 55% off. And during this intensive, we essentially discover your own unique nervous system wounds and blocks, the things that are limiting your growth, that are limiting your receivership, that are limiting your leadership. And then I teach you step by step my proprietary hatching process, which is one of my most powerful processes to bring your nervous system and your mind, essentially your brain, out of the sense of contraction and move back into regulation, liberation, and expansion. For all the details, just click the link on that. You'll see there's a bunch more detail on there, including the price and all of that. But it's on, it's 55% off, so it's not that expensive, especially for what you get. All the work I do at all level is a life-changing expansion experience where I help you become the most loving, peaceful, and powerful force in your life and in your business. I help create and give you a clear roadmap to getting you out of your own way and to actualizing your potential, both internally and externally. And I would help to be your guide on this journey. I would love to help you succeed massively in your life, in your leadership, in your work and your wealth, in a way that feels joyful, in a way that feels easeful, truly delightful, and actually is going to nourish all of you from your soul all the way to your bank account. All right, that's what I have. I'm wishing you a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you next week.